Everybody got a podcast. Everybody is a critic, but nobody want a minute. Everybody going live now. Everybody want it right now. Click the link up in the bio. Everybody got a new line. Everybody is offended. Give a fuck in your opinion. Everybody got a...
So yeah, dude, welcome to another episode, man.
Thank you.
We're going to try and do these once a month, I know, but last one we did was January, but you know, hey, we're old men and our schedules are all over the map, so we do when we can do them. So what's going on with you, man?
A lot of driving, a lot of work.
I thought you were going to say a lot of drugs.
A lot of concerts coming up.
Such as?
I'm taking my daughter to Coheed. That'll be her first concert.
Nice.
And then 3 days later...
You're going to see 3 Days Grace?
No. Actually, me and Capozo are going to see Face to Face 3 nights in a row.
Oh, that'll be fun.
They're doing what they call the Triple Crown show. So the first night is they play their first album, and then another set. Second night, second album in its entirety. Another set, third night, etc.
That's how I wanted to see Alkaline Trio when they were performing all of their albums, like for their anniversary, like in a row. That would have been a great show to be at for, like, God damn it, especially. I would have loved to have been for.
No, I'm looking very forward to this. And the tickets were very reasonable considering everything else I've bought. Like when I bought the My Chemical Romance tickets on my birthday this year for my wife and my other wife.
You're not in Utah. Is polyamory a thing now in Florida?
No, but it might as well be.
Are you Mormon?
No, thank God I'm not. Not after watching American Primeval.
Dude, I still have to see that. Paul watched it. I think he said he liked it, but what did you describe it as? No, John described it as something that we already watched. Like maybe it was Yellowstone or just or 1883.
He said it was like a slicker version of 1883, like not as harsh and like. At that point, John hadn't finished the series either. He'd only seen 4 episodes.
I still haven't seen it. Paul said it was good, but he said you could definitely tell like it was his. I forget the guy. Is it Peter Berg who did it?
Oh, you can definitely tell Peter Berg did it. Yeah,
and he's like, you can tell he did it. You could tell that like he was trying to make his version of like what Tyler Sheridan's done with his universe. He's like, it was good. He's like, but I feel like I just saw the same show in a different way, and then that should, because I saw it first, that's my favorite version of it or whatever. But I'll get around to it. It's just a matter of time to watch stuff, you know.
I will definitely say, as far as cinematography and just camera work, Primeval is much better in that aspect.
It's gonna be. Well, no, I'm not.
Shot like a regular show. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean. I thought he was referring to like 1883, which is it's like the prequel to Yellowstone, but it's set during that period, which I mean, cinematography, like, I mean, I haven't seen American Primeval with the scope of 1883. Like, I remember Paul watched it when it came out. I spent like a year kicking my feet because I'm like, I don't want to watch this. And then I watched it in one sitting during Christmas break, bawling like a baby. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I get it. This is and it's, to me, that's the best thing he's done of that entire universe is that 1883. So I'm gonna watch it. I just got to get the time to.
You know, I thought that Taylor Kitsch was great in it, but the real star of the show to me was Kim Coates.
Dude, I got to tell you, before we went live this morning, which was only a couple minutes ago, I had finished watching my rewatch of Sons of Anarchy. But 2 weeks ago, for whatever reason, I decided to start watching Sons of Anarchy. I don't know what kind of drove me to it, but I started watching the first episode on Hulu and quickly got dismayed by the ads that are now on Hulu, left and right, like YouTube. So I pulled my DVD box sets out, and before I knew it, like I had burned through the first 3 seasons in like 3 days, and I'd forgotten everything that I mean, I haven't seen it since it went off the air. And Kim Coates really is, I mean, there's a lot of great people in that show. It's an all-star cast in Sons of Anarchy, but like Kim Coates' character in particular, like I found myself at the beginning of that show really hating him. Like, I mean, he was an easy to hate fucking guy. By the end of this last episode I watched it, like I had tears coming down my face. Like, fuck, I love this guy. This guy who goes from being like this man of mayhem to the life, to like being just crazy and outside of the box and just all over the map, and then like finding this Walton Goggins character.
Yeah.
And just like completely figuring out like you're the only person I can actually be myself. Like
what was her name? Venus?
Venus, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
yeah.
I love it.
So in American Primeval, he plays Brigham Young, the head of the Mormons.
Oh, okay.
And man, I don't know much on Mormon history, but if it was anything like this show shows, holy fuck, that dude was ruthless.
The only thing I know about Mormon is from the show Big Love with Bill Paxton, I think it was. Rest in peace. Again, just a show like I had nothing going on. I was using pills at the time and watching anything I could, and I'm like, oh, I love Bill Paxton. I'll give this a shot, and it sucked me in. But I don't know how accurate it is to like Mormon and
right. I have no idea how accurate Primeval is, but it was a fun watch.
That's what's important. You know, most nowadays it's hard to find shit that you can honestly say that about. Most of the stuff that comes out is just crap.
Dude, I watched The Wild Robot the other night with my daughter, and I love that movie.
I've heard of the name, but I don't remember who's in it or what it's about.
It's an animated film, and you'll find parts of it very reminiscent to the Iron Giant.
Ooh, we just watched that 2 weeks ago with Alan Cover. I fucking love the Iron Giant.
So Wild Robot is this like maintenance task oriented robot gets dropped off in the wrong place and ends up in the wilderness. And its only job is to do tasks. So it's trying to figure out what needs to be done. It's just a really good film, man.
I'll have to check it out, man. I got
My daughter loved it. I loved it.
Nice.
I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Do you do that on apps? You rate movies and stuff on apps?
Yeah, it's mostly now so I can remember what I have and haven't seen.
That's fair.
Because during COVID, it got to the point where you're watching so much bullshit, you go back to watch something, and halfway through you're like, man, I've fucking seen this.
Man, I've done that a lot. I miss tracking stuff. When Shane and I lived together, there was a website. I was still on Facebook, and I think it ended up being bought out by Facebook, I think, at some point, or some conglomerate, but it was a website called getglue.com, I think.
I remember Get Glue. It disappeared.
I loved it. Like you check into a TV show or a movie and you keep track and share it with people on social media. And then you get cool stickers like on the website. And if you wanted them, they would print them out and send them to you in the mail. And I have like sheets of Red State stickers and all kinds of other shit that came out. I miss that stuff. I don't do that anymore at all.
Go on Letterboxd. It's an app. It's free. And you can track your friends and see what they're watching. And you see what everyone rates stuff. You can write reviews. You can post them. I've been using Letterboxd for a couple of years now. I don't keep up with it as much as I actually watch, but
yeah, I haven't kept up on a lot of stuff. It's just out of time necessity, like between doing a job that pays the bills and then spending all my free time just kind of like on various streams and shit and kind of trying to create content. I just find myself lost. That's why it's nice doing Sibling Revelry, because it does kind of keep us like in check with like finding shows and movies to watch and kind of stay relevant and stuff like that. But for the most part, my free time is spent like rewatching if I have free time, Sons of Anarchy or like old stuff that I just haven't seen in a while. And then of course, PlayStation 5 takes up a lot of time too. Like that's a big time suck.
I just started playing Grand Theft Auto 5, the story, for the first time.
Dude, I'm so glad that you said that, because John and Paul gave me shit because last year, the year before, is the first time I ever fully played the game all the way through. I own every version of it on PS3, PS4, and when I got the PS, I never played through it because I'm sure you've played through them or tried to, but on PS3 and PS4, those games are so long and massive in scope that the load times are unbearable.
Horrible.
And with when they said that it was I had just got the PS5 and they're like, yeah, the GTA 5 is gonna be remastered for PS5. And I remember John going like, yeah, that's what we need, another version of it instead of Grand Theft Auto 6. And I'm like, well, fuck it, I'll pick it up. It was on sale for $15. And dude, like playing it on the PS5 is a complete different experience, man. Like
Yeah.
I zipped through that game like it was nothing and loved every fucking minute of it.
The only thing I will say is obviously the driving feels really dated after playing Red Dead 2 and how much better that engine is for movement. But the
For sure.
story's fun, and clearly
Characters are great.
they're great, but they're also nobody's a good person. Like nobody.
Nope.
They're all just fucking horrible people.
Who's it? Trevor's my favorite. Trevor's just so fucking nuts.
I think the one that I would probably want to hang out with most is Franklin.
Yeah. Franklin's about our speed, our type of hang.
Yeah, I don't think I could hang with fucking Michael or Trevor.
Trevor, I've hung out with variations of him in Suncoast when I was buying pills from different trailers.
I've definitely met Trevor a couple of times, and oof. And I've met people like Michael.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
I was heartbroken to find out that Ray Liotta didn't voice Michael. It sounded a lot like him.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but it wasn't Ray. So I know we were going to talk about it, so let's hear your take on The Father of Make Believe.
New Coheed album. Didn't like it the first time I listened to it. It just didn't. You got to understand, like that second Vaxxus album, the minute it's funny, I was going to listen to it and I just lost track with everything going on when it dropped. And John, of all people, texted me the morning that Vaxxus 2 dropped, and he's like, I can't believe I'm saying this. He's like, but you really need to listen to this album and get back to me with your thoughts. And I'm like, all right.
I'm the one who sent it to John.
Well, that's what I thought. I'm like, if John is telling me a new Coheed album is worth listening to, then something must be up. And I remember putting that on, and from beginning to end to this day, I mean, that morning when I listened to it the first time, like it felt like I was at your house again, and we were all listening to the bootleg of Good Apollo Volume 1 that you'd gotten.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that.
Daughter.
Yeah. It reminds me, it reminded me of that, the experience of listening to it for the first time. I'm like, holy shit, this is the first time in a long time where like a Coheed album has like pulled me in from beginning to end. And that album does not have a bad song on it. I think that might be their best album, if I'm being honest with you. Like I love other albums more for personal reasons,
right?
But I think musically, lyrically, production wise, like Vaxxus 2 is like a masterpiece. It's their masterpiece, in my opinion.
Vaxxus 3 is produced by the same guy. A lot of the songs were written around the same time. I don't think Vaxxus 3 flows quite as well as 2, but 3 I've played more times than I can count at this point.
Well, I listened to it the day it came out. And like I said, I didn't care for it. It wasn't like Vaxxus 2 where like it was just, I was jumping from song to song. And part of me was a little surprised. The other part of me, the rational part of me, wasn't, because I didn't really feel the same. I felt the same way about this the first time I listened to it, the way I did with Unheavenly Creatures. Like that first listen, I was excited for it, and I thought there was some good songs and some good parts to it, but overall it fell flat for me. And then Vaxxus 2 came out. I'm like, holy shit, they have not lost anything. Like they just had to find something. They had to find this album. It didn't pull me in right away, but after I texted you and I think I said that, I'm like, so far it's not my cup of tea. And you're like, I really love it. And I'm like, well, I'll give it a few more listens, knowing we were going to do this and talk about it. And I've changed my opinion. There are a lot more things that I like about it, song wise, but I don't think, I mean, I have to listen to it more to really get a fully understanding of it. But I think as I get older, that's just who I am. Like I initially hate things right off the bat, and then it takes a little while for me to warm up to them.
I get it. So the only thing that I truly dislike about the album was when you go from track 1 to track 2, it doesn't flow seamlessly or smoothly. There's kind of like a jarring moment in between the two tracks.
Yep, I agree.
But when you get pretty much from Mary of Mercy on, I mean, for me, the standouts are Play the Poet, Corner My Confidence, Tethered. The whole Continuum suite it's just like old Coheed. And then you've got it going back to Afterman, it's just so much of it just jumping back and forth.
Oh, Afterman is another good, interesting case. I was thinking about this, like when how Vaxxus 2 really was like the first time I felt that like that listening to an album the way I did Good Apollo 1. And I'm like, it really is like, because Good Apollo 2 is a lot of good songs on it, but it's not a great album. Um, the oh my God, why can't I think of the name? The Year of the Black Rainbow. I fucking, I truly do not like that album. I've tried to over the years. I've listened to it, but Afterman. Oh no, it was after that. It was The Color in the
Color
Sun.
Before this. Oh no,
Color.
it was Afterman, then Color Before the Sun.
Okay, so Afterman, I didn't even listen to when it came out. Like I was getting out of Florida, coming up here. I was completely out of like music loop. I was just trying to get my shit together, and then you and I reconnected, and you're like, you got to listen to this track and this track off the Afterman. I'm like, I've never listened to either of those albums. I should. And I started a job as a custodian, and I was just listening to music at night, and I put that album on, and I fucking fell in love with both of those albums.
I truly think of it as one album.
I do too, because I listened to it as I listened to the deluxe edition on Spotify, where it's just both albums together nonstop. But when I heard, there's a lot of songs that I could pick from that are just pull you in, are fucking good with good guitar riffs. But like Dark Side of Me, that fucking song was like, oh my God, this just fucking broke. Because literally, I was like 3 months with nothing in my system, and I was having to relearn how to deal with my emotions, and I was crying at the drop of a hat. Dude, The Walking Dead, Rick was getting ready to leave the show, and he captured Negan, and there's that line in the show where he could kill him. And he's like, just do it. And he's like, my mercy must overcome my wrath. And I remember bawling like a little baby at that line. And it was no different when I heard Dark Side of Me. I'm like, holy fuck. Like I've really fucked up. This song like encapsulates how I feel, how I fucked up so much in my life.
My daughter, I have videos of her when that song came out. What was she, like 5? And she would just sit there and be like, Cokeed, and she would sing Dark Side of Me. So it's only fitting that her first show is going to be Coheed.
I hope they play it. It's been a while since...
Dark Side of Me is going to be on the set list.
Nice.
I've seen the opener is going to be Periphery and then Mastodon.
Oh, Mastodon's going to be interesting to see now that what's his face has left the band.
Yeah, Brent left.
He was like the founder, lead vocalist, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be an interesting show.
I'm more interested in seeing Periphery than Mastodon, honestly.
Oh, I love Mastodon.
I don't care one way or the other about Mastodon. It's not that I dislike them. I just never got into them the way some people do.
It reminds me of a time in my life where like I was hanging out with you guys, Skylar, we were working at the mall. Fucking Sleeping Giant is like one of my favorite songs, like metal song. It's like one of the few like truly heavy kind of just metal bands that I really still like.
Yeah. Periphery is just so different. Oh man, it's just musically, I'm so all over the place lately. Like my favorite albums of the year last year were all over the place. Like Halsey, the pop singer, put out an amazing album. It's called the Great Impersonator.
I would love for you to spend a week with me on my bus route. I've gotten beginning of last year, like I've never used the radio when I've driven. Because in the morning I want as the captain of the ship, I want it to be peaceful. And with this new job, like all the kids were just like, can we listen to the radio? And I put the radio on and they wanted to listen to country, like nothing but country. And after like 3 days of modern country, I'm just like, you know what, man, I'm going to go ahead and invest in a Bluetooth adapter for the radio system in here. And so I can play music off Spotify. And I told everybody on the bus, I'm like, I want everyone to create music lists, songs you like, songs you want to hear, give them to me. We're going to create a playlist for all of us to listen to, and everyone's going to get a say, and it's not going to be one genre. It'll be a mix mash. And I'll be honest with you. They got me into some stuff. They've gotten me into Jelly Roll. I really got into that song Save Me quite a bit. And then they've really just kind of like wanted me to drive into it off a cliff because I got to listen to Taylor Swift, Bad Blood and what's that Bruno Mars like I got to listen to
I
all
have
these
no
ridiculous
idea
ones.
what that is.
Dude, it is. I got to listen to some of the most ridiculous things, but it makes them happy, and I like bonding with people over music, and
Mhm.
because of that, I've gotten kids into Real Big Fish. I've put Coheed on the playlist. I've gotten to the point where like I put Claudio's cover album on. I put this cover of Just Like Heaven. I've got one kid now who comes up to me and requests me to skip ahead because I got it on shuffle, so it just plays randomly. They're like, can you
Right.
skip ahead to that Just Like Heaven song? And I'm like, absolutely. Like it's a cool experience now. And but so I'm not like listening to like a lot of albums in conjunction. When I have downtime and I'm working, it's more podcasts and I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. I got the Audible app.
Yeah, me too.
But there are things that I do try and pay attention to and still listen to. Like Coheed drops a new album, I'm going to listen to it. Good example, Kanye West just dropped a new album called Bully, and I've been listening to that. And in spite of all of the crazy Nazi stuff that he's been going on about and letting his crazy, I think he truly is just trolling at this point. But all that aside, like the music is unchanged. Like this album, I think he's using more like what's the record Motown. He's using a lot of old Motown like samples and soul music for the new album. I really fucking enjoy it. But I don't know, like certain things like that, like Alkaline Trio drops another album, I'm gonna listen to it. You know, I didn't even realize Claudio dropped a cover album until I started doing the playlist thing with the bus, and I'm like, oh shit, like there's a lot of good shit on here.
Yeah, you remember some of that was from back in the old days, like
Sure.
the church covered.
Yeah, when he would do the
Under the
pandemic things from his home studio and shit. I still want him to release or them to release a cover of Gautier's like a studio somebody I used to know. I think that would be awesome. I love their version of it.
Their version was great. I'm curious what the early release song is going to be at the show. But yeah, like so there's only a couple albums I'm looking forward to this year. So Garbage has a new album coming out, so I'm excited about that. And AFI
Our Lady
has a new
Peace.
album.
AFI?
Yeah. AFI
Oh,
has
I
a
love
new
Our
album
Lady
dropping.
Peace.
Random thing. I was driving with Capozzo 2 weeks ago, something like that, to a poker game. And we were talking about Semi Charmed Life and how that song just always appeared. Like, whenever, back when I partied, that song came on at every party somehow.
Is that
so I never listened to that fucking album ever because I was so tired of that song.
Lit, right? I'm thinking the right band, right?
No, it's Third Eye Blind.
Third Eye Blind, okay.
And so John's like, yeah, you really got to listen to that album. And I was like, are you fucking serious?
That song's about
sat down. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I sat down and I listened to the whole album, and that's a really good damn album.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, and I like that album, but I like that album because I was hanging around 99X a lot at the time when that came out, and so like all of the music they were playing, like I was getting free copies, and you guys weren't in my life, so I didn't have people like recommending music other than Lee and Lance and shit. So like I fell in love with that through the radio station, and I agree. Like I always thought like some of my friends would shit on stuff like that, or like bands like Lit or bands that we had at X Fest, and I'm like, look, it's like Creed. Like I shit on Creed left and right, but as an adult, like, oh man, I get it. Like there is value in this stuff.
Did you watch that video I sent you of Creed?
Buddy, if you knew what my algorithm looked like, it's predominantly Creed. It's wild.
But did you watch that video?
Yeah.
Of what the video would actually sound like?
Dude, some of my favorite things are watching people reinterpret stuff. Like I've sent them to John, but I've got like a bunch of videos of like musicians who like record songs in their home studio and they do all of the music, the instruments and shit. And there's a guy who's been remaking all kinds of hit songs in the style of Midwestern emo. And there's a shit ton of Creed ones he did that are really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of good music out there. You just got to look for it. It's not always on the surface. And I haven't listened to a radio, and I don't know when, honestly.
My favorite thing to do, and this is kind of how I Like I used to have you, John, Skylar, Mark, people in Florida who would like get me into certain types of bands, and to this day, John will send me shit. You'll send me shit that I'll get into. But I don't have that anymore. And what's been kind of cool is like over the last 5 years of like spending the spring and summer like getting healthier again, is Spotify. What I like about Spotify, like I think when you and I first started doing the show back during the pandemic, we used to pick a song that we would each have each other listen to and then break it down, or an album. And at the time, I was really listening to a lot of Andrew WK. And what I loved about Spotify to this day is when that album ended, it would just create a playlist based on the stuff I was listening to. And it got me into even more shit that I'd never heard of. Same with hip hop. Like there was a summer I spent listening to, dude, I was fucking late to the game on Kid Cudi and Mac Miller. And I spent 2 summers just listening to nothing but Best Day Ever by Mac. It's one of those things where it's like, that's what I have now to get me into music is Spotify. Like I'll just let it go to whatever they suggest. And I either like it or I skip forward, you know. DMX, so I got to do a lot of DMX through Spotify. Holy shit, do I love DMX.
So as a driver, I deal with dumb people daily and nightly. Last night, I had these 2 guys. I'm not sure what language they were speaking. They were from some Arab country.
Sand chimps.
No, they're just some dudes. One guy's wearing a hoodie. It's like 84 degrees. And I'm like, all right.
I'm so jealous of you.
It's fucking hot, dude.
No, it sounds like heaven. We had freezing rain last night.
I'd rather have freezing rain.
I promise you wouldn't be able to work.
Okay.
The roads are all, nobody drives when they, oh, well, whatever.
But so I have this pet peeve as a driver when people start playing music on their phone or TikTok, like without having headphones on.
Oh, yeah. So, it's same with phone calls, too.
Yeah. So these 2 dudes are both listening to different music at the same time. And I'm like,
without headphones?
Right. And so, and my stereo is pretty fucking loud. So I'm like, I'm just going to drown this out with stuff I know they're going to hate. So I'm playing deathcore, just like
stuff that you would do at Guantanamo Bay.
Kind of, yeah. Like these guys, and I'm looking in the mirror and just seeing their eyes like, what the fuck? I'm like,
you got to do the wrong cab.
That's what you get for playing that shit in my car. I don't want to hear 2 different shitty tinny songs coming out of your fucking Androids while we're driving down the road at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, too funny.
And then the next song was Russian death metal. They didn't like that either.
Who wouldn't like Russian? You know what you should have put on? Put on some of that fucking Finlander, that Finnish love metal. Put on some Hymn.
No, when somebody really annoys me, like I'll put on like the Who, like
I fucking love the Who.
HU.
Oh, wow.
It's Mongolian throat singing.
So you basically like get paid to just torture people that you don't like their music.
Yes, very much so. One of my favorite stories of all time doing this job as far as musically fucking with some dude. It was when I had that Kia that I drove up there in that had the system in it.
Oh, I remember.
And
it was a very loud system.
It was. So
get in my car. Like, I'm good. I believe you. I can hear it from out here. Just get in the car. This is cool. I'm good. It's like when Paul told me to shoot his gun he's like, I know you don't like guns. Just do it once for me and you know, go from there. That's what like getting in your car was. It was like having to shoot a gun for the first time.
So I had this little Hispanic guy one night who was drunk and on something. Because when I took a turn, he just kind of fell over. And he's laying looking at the ceiling. And I was like, all right, I'm going to have fun. Because I had to drive him from like Lehigh to Naples. And I had lights set up to go with the bass of the speakers. And so I just turned on Daft Punk. And this guy's like touching the ceiling of my car.
What album?
Random Access Memories.
It's the best. It's my
Giorgio by Mordor is my favorite track on that album.
My name is Giorgio, and I came up with the click track.
And so it puts it on the tick. And so when that
It's such
part
a great
comes
album.
on, you just see this little guy's arms reaching up, touching the ceiling. He
That
was so
album
ate up.
is the perfect album to be fucked up on. I would like to do Molly and listen to that album in a room of nothing but fur. Oh my God, I love Random Access Memories. I listen to that at least once or twice a year. That's one of the few regrets I have. Like, you talk about bands that you want to see, or bands that you wish you could have seen tour with an album. Like, I would like to have seen them tour with Random Access Memories and perform it in its entirety. That is such a fantastic album.
I'm really bummed that I missed Explosions in the Sky again, but
I put on the playlist, I did put a Daft Punk song, and I put Get Lucky on it because I figure, well, fuck it, it's a radio hit. You know, it's a good song, and there's no cursing in it. And that's my big thing. I don't put explicit stuff on the playlist. There's a bunch of kids who wanted me to put on Eminem's Superman and Kendrick Lamar's They Not Like Us. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, why not? No. You know why? Our parents lit up. I'm like, I'm not your parents. Like, I'm trying to preserve your innocence, dude.
I'm not trying to go to get fired.
Exactly. Well, I'm not even worried about that. It's just, I don't want to be like, I know that they're going to listen to this stuff, and I know they're going to talk and say fuck and shit like that, but I don't want to be the guy that's the harbinger for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to be the cool guy. I want to be Otto.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I found this. I was going through boxes last week, and I made a collage, but I found this old Busman poster of Otto as a superhero. But it's funny. I put Get Lucky on the playlist, and I didn't think about it because, like I said, we literally have a 3.5 hour playlist now, and it's just on shuffle. So very rarely do the songs I want to hear come on. And Get Lucky came on one afternoon, and one of the older kids in the back came up as he was getting off, and he's looked at me and he's like, "Hey, you know what this song's about, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, do you?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know if the kids know." And I'm like, "It's a song about a guy trying to get lucky at a poker game with his buddies." He's like, "Is that what it's about?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I immediately took it off the playlist once everybody got off. And I'm like,
"Yep, time for that to go."
I'm getting better though at bullshit my way out of things.
Yeah, you kind of just got to think on your feet.
Like, I do have. Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You know, I drive a myriad of different types of personalities throughout any given night. And I drove 2 different people back to back. They were both women, and we just had conversations. One was a mom, one was a young college kid. And they both thanked me and said, "I feel safe being around you."
Yeah, I get that. You have that presence about you.
And I was like, well, that's good to know at least. Like, everyone's always like, "Oh, why don't you get your head tattooed?" I'm like, because I don't want to look like a murderer.
No, get the flames and do the Bam Bam Bigelow. Go full throttle, man.
I like to keep a job. Like,
you work for yourself.
Probably not for much longer. I think once summer break hits, I'm just gonna go get my D&G license and go do security again.
Right on.
It's more money. It's constant, you know.
Right on. I get that. There's a reason why I have a day job. You know, it's funny. Like, over the last few episodes of doing Sibling Revelry, the guests that we've had on, like, with the exception of Alan Covert, like, there's a lot of people who I look at that we have on. I look at like, wow, you guys are like doing what I want to do, and you're doing it successfully. And then you start talking to me, like, no, I got a job. I still have a day job. And I'm like, okay, it's not just me. Then, like, that's the world we live in, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So this guy's last night, at one point, he's like, "Excuse me, sir." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you have gas?" I'm like, "Of course I have gas. I'm driving a fucking car." And his friend's like, "No, cash. I'm like, "No, I don't have any cash." He's like, "You give me cash, I send you Zelle." I'm like, "No."
What the hell is Zelle?
So they transfer from their bank to your bank. They just needed cash. I'm like, "Do you know what an ATM is? I can take you to an ATM. I'm not giving you cash."
It sounds like since I left Florida, there's a lot more foreign people there now. with accents. So based on how I hear you talk about them.
So I'm routinely told that I'm the only English speaking driver that people get, which I don't know. I know nothing about that. I just go drive, go about my night, and move on. Picked up a lady the other night, and she's like, "I'm so glad you're here." And I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "I just got to get out of here, man. A guy just crashed his motorcycle and lost his arm and his leg." I'm like, Jesus.
Holy shit.
He was still alive.
I've had
and screaming.
You just triggered a memory in me that I forgot I had, and I think I have told you this before. But when I worked at TV Center, that video store down the road from us, I back in the day, the owner, my boss and friend Tim, his kids when they were still young, like he would pay me to babysit for him on Saturdays while he'd go to the Everblades hockey games. One night, the kids had been put down to bed. To date how the time frame, I brought my Nintendo 64 over to play. So when they went to bed, I was playing Resident Evil 2 expansion pack, of course. No big deal.
Oh, yeah.
I love that system.
Had to have the expansion pack.
I still have my N64 hooked up to my TV along with my original Xbox. I still play them from time to time. They're my favorites, some of my favorite systems. But I remember playing it this particular night. The kids were asleep, and there was a knock on the door, and it was a lady frantic, and it was over off McGregor where the golf course is. He lived off of, I forget the name of the road on McGregor. You turn down, and he lives off. It was like 3 roundabouts going down to where Babe was.
That's Hill Road. I used to live right on Hill Road.
So he lived when you go down when you take your left on Hill. The first roundabout, you just take a right. My buddy Mike Musser lived on the left. Tim lived across the street from him on the right. And this lady came knocking frantically. She's like, there's been an accident here. You need to call 911. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I can't stay here, but somebody had a motorcycle accident out by the roundabout. And I'm like, okay. And I grabbed the cordless phone and I closed the door, locked it up, went outside, and I went to the roundabout. And there was a motorcycle just on itself, busted up in the middle of the fucking roundabout, and about 10-15 feet away from the bike was the driver, splayed out with his right arm completely dislocated and almost like folded like a cardboard box behind his back completely. He was laying on it. His head was twisted, and you could tell it was like broken because he had shit protruding out of it, and his other arm was mangled, and he was sitting there and I'm like, hey man, everything's gonna be okay. I've got 911. I called them. The ambulance is on the way. You're gonna be okay. And he's like, don't call the cops. And I'm like, buddy, it's too late. You're gonna die. You're not getting up from this on your own. And he's like, I've been drinking. He's like, I've been drinking all night, and I've already got 2 strikes on my license. I'm like, this might be the wake up call to stop drinking and driving. Then, I don't know what to tell you.
No kidding. This is your fucking sign, dude. Like, yeah.
I think about how stupid I was when I drank and drive. And I did it a lot, dude.
I did not. I can only remember one time, and it was one of those things where I'd been drinking a lot, and I went to leave downtown, and this girl was like, "Hey, sit down," and she worked in a kiosk across from Suncoast from me.
Oh, I missed that place.
So I was like, okay, why am I sitting down? I truly never knew her name. She's like, just have some water. I'm like, okay. So I had a glass of water, and I was like, all right, bye. And then I got in my car, and I was driving home, and it wasn't until I turned onto Fowler that I realized that you're not even close to sober. I was shifting from first into second, and I was like, oh, okay. The guy in front of me is driving like this. I'm like, if I just stay in the middle of where he goes, he'll get pulled over and I'll be fine. Luckily, I only lived. That's when we were working at the school board, and that's when I had to get back to Metro. I'm like, okay, it's not that far.
You know what's funny is you brought that up. I just going through like I said, I've been going through boxes out of my storage closet, finding old toys and shit because I'm trying to build I don't know why. Now that I'm streaming more, it's one of those. It's just that nerdy thing where I want to display my nerd shit. So I started going
Right.
through boxes and stuff, looking for toys, and I found a bunch of old Bob and Doug comics that I drew when you and I were living together that I'm
Oh
going to
god, the
find a way to
one of
scan them.
me as Scott Stapp.
Oh, the hot dog divide.
Yeah.
I found that one. I found a bunch of them. I found one where, and I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to have to take a photo of it and scan it or something and put it up and send it to you. But there was one where it was like, I literally you would work on the sites crew during the day, and I was in the back of the main warehouse before I went to the big warehouse. And I mean, the warehouse I worked in was like where people went to die, or like people who had work injuries. Like it was literally just the mutants of Table 9. And so I literally did 2 hours of honest work in an 8-hour day whenever UPS would show up, and I'd have to unload a truck and check all the parts in and put them on the shelves. Then I just went back to like, well, my partner's asleep or he's playing solitaire. So I'm just like, I guess I'll watch movies on my computer. And then I start drawing. I found like a stack of like sketch paper in a drawer of this desk that I inherited. And I would just start drawing our conversations. Like I would bring, because before you were at the district, you were doing surveying. And I would drive you to work in the morning on my way to work and drop you off. And I started drawing our conversations. And there's one that I'm going to find it, but it was like this conversation about like, what if aliens came to Earth? Like, we wouldn't go into work. Like we'd pick up weapons and we'd start like something along those lines, but it was really fucking funny. Like we would just have these insane conversations that I would draw out, and I can't draw the way I used to draw. Like I lose interest and patience immediately. I tried doing it the other day, but back then, like I got really good at drawing you and me.
No, those were really funny comics, dude.
Well, we had a lot of funny road trip conversations when we went to see Kevin Smith
oh god,
at that speaking engagement in Orlando, and stopped at Burger King and got the Han Solo, the Star Wars watches and shit. Like I forget what the whole premise was, but like you and I were dying laughing for 30 minutes straight over a fucking watch, and I can't remember what it was, but it was just our road conversations. They were really funny.
Dude, I remember to this day, one of my funniest road trip memories involves you, Brady, and Nick.
I fucking miss Brady. I haven't thought about him in forever.
He flew down. He was the best man at my wedding.
Aw. Tell him I said hi next time you talk to him.
Yeah.
And Nick, for that matter.
And Justin Williams was with us. Because you remember, like, I took the photo where Nick had a fucking Slim Jim with Funyuns going up. Do you remember that?
I do.
And he sneezed and it hit the back of my head and I lost my shit. And you pulled over the car and I pulled him out of the car. Like I was gonna fucking
I remember this now.
And you're like, oh my god, what's that smell? And you had parked over roadkill. It was the fucking worst. Everyone's trying not to vomit. I've got Nick snot on the back of my fucking head.
It's funny that I forget sometimes, because I haven't talked to him in a while, but the last time I saw Nick, like on camera anyway, like I was just impressed with how in shape he was and how well put together he seemed to be, and like his confidence was nothing like I remember it. Like he got a lot of confidence. And I it's funny listening to that story. I think back, I'm like, oh, that's right. There was a time where like Nick was like grossly obese and had man tits and would pull them out and flap them for us and shit. And now he's just a completely different guy. Like it's really cool to see that shit.
Nick's a great dude. We don't hang out often. When we do, it's usually we're going to shows or whatever. We run in very different circles because I don't really do anything but stay home and go to work. Like I don't go out much. Like it's not really my thing.
Same. Dude, I'm gonna be 45 next week.
Dude, I'm 47 for Christ's sakes. About to be 48. And on my 48th birthday, I'll be watching My Chemical Romance perform the Black Parade in full.
Who just gave a thumbs up? It just popped up on your screen.
I don't know.
Oh, that was kind of cool. I don't know where it came from. I was like watching and this like emoji of a thumbs up came up floating across the screen. I'm like, where the fuck did that come from?
So I'll be seeing the Black Parade in full, and then who's opening?
When I was a young boy, my father.
I love that song. I love that whole album.
I like that song used in TV and movie sequences. It fits very well.
Dude, it worked great in Clerks.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Even though I hated
You
the
know,
movie,
it worked perfect. I was like, man. But so I got John a present, and I know he's not watching.
Are you sure?
I don't fucking know. John, are you watching? If so,
There's
thumbs
nobody
up.
in chat. We've got 29 people watching us right now, but there's no one in chat, so I couldn't say if he's watching or not.
Yeah, the thumbs up just appeared. John, if that's you, thumbs up again.
Will
Well,
it into existence.
do it, John. Do it. I don't want to ruin the surprise. So it's nothing big, but I'm hoping when I give it to him that he wears it on your podcast next time. And it relates to something in this conversation earlier.
Well, he's going to be coming up, not next week, but the week after. There's going to be a Knights of the Revelry episode, and he is a knight. So I hope he gets it by then, because I'd like to. Now I want to know what it is.
I'll give it to him before then. I'll get with him at some point.
I want to get a T-shirt of John.
It's a T-shirt. I'll say that it's a shirt. John, you're getting a shirt. So
does the Edison Mall still have like shirt kiosks where they make whatever image? If you have an image, they'll press it.
Dude, I haven't been in the Edison Mall in probably 6 years.
Shit, I have an image of John from the smoke shop. I found a bunch of pictures that I took with my flip phone, shitty Sprint camera back in the day when we worked at the smoke shop. You were at EB, and I have this photo of John at the counter of the smoke shop with a black bandana folded out across his head and a half button down like shirt, like looking like a cholo. And I want to get it on. I want to get a shirt made of it. I've got a bunch of great pictures of John. I'd like to slap on a shirt with some wacky catchphrase, but I want a John shirt badly.
Yeah, I've thought about doing that with a couple of the photos I have.
I found some great photos of John when he had that emo hairstyle, that cleft to the right, and he was jet black. And I have photos where he would, back in the day, John would, back then he wasn't as big as he got, but he was still big for his size. And I love the fact that he had the most confidence just wearing like 2 sizes too small, everything. And so when I look back at some of these photos, you just see John with like a pair of what I can only describe as like Prince boy pants or jeans, and they go right up to the bottom of his ass. He doesn't even get them all around his way around his ass. It's just so funny to look at, man. Like,
it was the early 2000s, man.
Oh, I miss those days. The salad days.
I saw a meme today, and it was a bunch of guys in clothes way too tight, and it said, "What's keeping men from dressing like this more often?" And somebody responded, "We know how to use a fucking dryer."
I saw one of Real Big Fish the other day. It said weather forecast.
Oh, the living embodiment. Okay.
Embodiment or something like that. Yeah, it was like the something about like the clothes, dress like you live in the 90s. It was like not so bad being trendy.
My favorite meme of Real Big Fish is it's Aaron and all the guys all wacky, and Aaron's like, and it says, "This is the living embodiment of what a child thinks of when they hear the words mozzarella sticks."
Hey, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of them lately. I do mix it up a little bit, but they come on my Spotify quite a bit. I do have a cover of theirs on the playlist. Not a cover. Well, it's a cover they do of "Ain't Looking But For Nothing But a Good Time." How can I forget who does the original? I can't believe that.
Poison.
Thank you. It's a great cover.
Yeah, that was off of What the Cat Dragged In.
Yeah.
So What the Cat Dragged In.
I'm trying to think what movies you've seen lately. Like, have you gone to the theater and seen anything new? Have you seen Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Did you contribute to the 80 million opening box office?
I have not. Look, man, the only time I go see those movies is if my daughter wants to go.
I don't get the point of them. You got a great original.
I have a core memory of my daughter. She had to have been 3, maybe 4, when the first live action remake came out, and that was Cinderella.
I forgot they did that.
And that was
I remember
the very
Aladdin.
first one. It was the very first one. And they get to the ballroom scene and they're dancing. And she's like, "Daddy." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "I want to dance." And so I picked her up and held her and we danced. And I'm just looking at anybody daring them to say something. You know what I mean? Because that was
That's
when I
cool.
was in shape and
I have to worry about throwing my arm or my knee out.
yeah, like no, I can just toss anybody across the fucking room.
I don't. I really don't get the point of Disney. I mean, other than making money or trying to make
Right,
money, I don't get.
it's clearly money. There's
You've
nothing else
got
to it.
an incredible classic film that everybody loves, and for the longest time, when VHS was the thing, like Disney would only release their movies like every couple of years,
Yeah,
like in a
and then they
special
go
event.
back in the vault.
And they go back in the vault. And now they're just like throwing everything up on streaming and they're remaking everything, and none of it is good. Like, what's the point of remaking an animated film if you're just going to make CGI animation of the character?
That was my problem with The Lion King. Don't call it a live action remake if
Yeah,
it's just CG.
and that's the same,
And
I think, with the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
yeah, they first of all there wasn't going to be any little people at all, and then they CG'd them
Well,
instead of
originally there wasn't going to be any. You're right. There wasn't going to be any little people. Peter Dinklage like did that interview saying like it was like this. Why are we still telling this story? Like not even thinking that there's a community of dwarf actors that won't work.
right.
So then they made the dwarfs, the original version of it. I've seen set pics from it. The original version was going to be like a diverse cast of dwarfs, like tall, skinny, black girls. Like it was like a mixed thing. And then people like lost their shit online. And then it was like, well, we're going to reshoot and make it CGI. And it's like for what purpose? Like
I don't get all the remakes. I truly don't. But
Lilo and Stitch. Why make a live action of that?
Yeah, there's no reason. First of
Or
all,
more,
it's not live action.
and
Why
Moana.
why are they making a live action How to Train Your Dragon?
Are they? I didn't know that. But that's
Dude,
not going to be live action.
It's shot for shot the movie. When we're done, watch the trailer. It's literally shot for shot the original movie.
All right.
But with the dude standing there.
I had no idea that they were doing that.
Yep. And what Gerard Butler's still playing the dad.
Well,
it's really weird.
That'll pay for a summer home.
Yeah. His next one. But the other thing about Snow White that was weird is like, okay, the evil queen is Gal Gadot. Like, who the fuck is she jealous of?
One of the hottest women, and just has to wear a fucking cover over her head like a nun.
Yeah,
dude.
Like, no, she's too pretty. What are you fucking talking about?
It's funny to me. I'm not even a big Gal Gadot fan. I liked the first Wonder Woman movie quite a bit.
I love the first Wonder Woman. Everything else didn't care. The second Wonder Woman was hot ass garbage.
Agreed. Totally agree.
Talk about wasting Kristen Wiig's talent.
I just never thought she was all that great other than that first Wonder Woman. And like, now she's got like a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And I'm like, okay. And then the Snow White controversy coming up, it's like, I never even considered it because I didn't know that Gal Gadot was Israeli, part of the Israeli army at one point in her life or something like that. Yeah. And Rachel Ziegler was like
part of it. She was a instructor in the Israeli army.
How weird is it to go from that to being? I mean, Iron Sheik did it. He was like the second in command of like the fucking was it Arabian army or whatever to the Shah, and then he became a wrestler.
But you have this Israeli woman talking pro-Israeli stuff, and then the other person's Free Palestine, trying to promote the same movie, and then both promoting their ideologies at the same time. But the only thing I've really noticed is no one said anything to Gal Gadot. But they wanted Rachel Ziegler to shut up.
Well, Ziegler was the one. I mean, they really did. I can't say one way or the other because everything we see is edited and packaged in a different way. So it's, I mean, that's YouTube. Most of the algorithm now is like all of these different reaction channels that are starting. And it's like, I know they're using AI to produce a lot of this shit for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Just to get clicks and stuff. But a lot of it is just like, can you believe the controversy? Like they're just like stoking the flames. It's like, yeah, like all of these videos that you guys keep making, it's like the only reason the flames are stoked is because you won't shut the fuck up about them. Like, move on, man. Like the thing that bothers me now about this modern movie shit, like you're talking about them bringing in their ideologies and stuff. It's like, I miss the days of like the early Smodcast when Kevin Smith would talk about like putting together Red State. And then he did the podcast about the making of Red State, the Red State of the Union. And he would talk about like sitting back in this chair and watching Michael Parks and all of these other actors on set, John Goodman. He's like, I'm watching an acting clinic perform. I used to love the way people talked about movies and acting and that as like an art form and an escape from reality. And now it's just like, oh, well, you're going to get the escape from reality. You're just going to have to sit through everybody's political bullshit and their ideologies and their opinions. Like, I don't want that. I just want to escape from life.
When you're doing a press tour for a movie, talk about the movie. I don't care about anything else. All right, man. Well, I hate to do it, but I'm going to have to get going because the whole house is about to erupt with loudness because everyone's getting up.
All good.
The 3 wives are going to Tampa today. And
Bob's harem.
Just for anyone watching, I don't recommend having 3 wives.
Unless you live in Utah.
Even then, I just still wouldn't recommend it. It's not a great lifestyle choice. Mistakes have been made. But yeah,
you're certainly
hilarious.
more tolerant though. Like I remember a time, and I'll let you go, but I remember first meeting you back in the day, like where you were like a much more angrier person, and I can't say. I can't speak to whether or not it's being around 3 women, but like you have mellowed the fuck out considerably. You're a much more tolerant person.
I think part of it's growing older. Part of it was having a child. And I think part of it is living with 4 women.
And the cats in the cradle and the silver spoon.
4 women and 2 female cats, 2 male cats and a male dog.
I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy. I think it's kind of the same.
I haven't ever played it.
I hate it.
But I've never read the books or watched the movies, so I don't have any frame of reference.
I absolutely hate it, and yet I can't put it down. I'm addicted to it, but I fucking hate every second of it. Story-wise, it's garbage, but it plays like a Far Cry game. There's a lot of fun quests, and once you unlock the ability to fly on a broom, and the world becomes an open world map, it becomes addictive. But everything, goblins, and just I don't care about this shit.
I was tempted to play the Avatar game just because it's built on the Far Cry engine, but I never did.
I recently rebeat Beyond Good and Evil, the remastered 20th anniversary edition. I just bought the upgrade now that they're re-releasing. What's the biker game you and I loved at the beginning of the pandemic?
Days Gone.
They're releasing a remastered of it at the end of April, and it's a $10 upgrade. So I bought that. They've remastered the graphics. There's going to be new content and shit. So I'm like, I want to get back into that. But yeah, I've got a bunch of
those hordes were hard as fuck.
Yeah, but they were so much fun. Like that game got a lot of shit, but that game was very fun.
It did, but to me, that's what I expect a zombie apocalypse to actually be like.
I agree.
Like shit's just going to be horrible. Just deal with it. You're going to die soon.
Yeah, act accordingly.
And if you don't die, you're gonna want to be dead. Yeah. So
that's why shit like The Walking Dead is good, man. Like you might not like the stories and the characters, but like I like stuff like that where it puts you in the like Days Gone, where it puts you in the perspective. What if the world was the apocalypse? Like, how would I act? And find out real quick,
Yeah. Well, would I make it past day 1?
Yeah, I would have a tough time having to kill a zombie, even though I knew it was the best thing. I'm like, it's still a person. I would feel remorse.
Well, it's like me and a buddy had this conversation. If the world ever came down to that and I watched him get bit, I'm putting 2 in his head immediately before he can even turn.
Paul said the same about me, and I don't know if that's brotherly love or just psychotic behavior of somebody living in a trailer with 2 dogs out in the middle of nowhere, but I get it.
I think it's the right call because you don't want to see them turn,
No. Yeah, you don't want to be...
I'd just be like, Doug, look at the flowers. look at the flowers, Doug.
This is literally how Gemma ate it last night when I watched that episode. Went out to smell her father's flowers. God, that show is so good. Talk about sticking the landing on a show.
Yeah, they really did. But that last scene,
it's funny? The bike scene on the semi-truck?
Yeah.
Okay, it's funny you brought that up because this morning I was posted as I was watching the last episode. I posted on Twitter about it. And I posted this great video clip that I took of Chibs having the meeting where Jax told him and Tig like what needs to be done and what he's going to do. And I have to meet Mayhem, and they have the fucking vote, and everybody is just in tears. All these fucking tough guys in tears, and Chibs is like holding it together, and he's just like, we cannot let our emotions cloud our reason. And
Yeah.
I wrote about that on Twitter. I'm like, God, I forgot how fucking great this show is. Like, I'm welling up like a kid. And this dude that follows me, he's just like, yeah, but that last scene with that fucking semi truck, it's just garbage. It's such a waste. And I'm like, I agree. The way it's shot looks ridiculous because you can tell it's on a crane. They're using one fan, so his hair's not really blowing the way it should be in the wind. But I love having just watched all 7 seasons in a row. I now appreciate that ending more because I think the problem with shows that we love is that we forget seasons take place a year between each other. They have to make them and pump them out on the networks. So a lot of shit I would forget rewatching them in order. Like I forgot that like he learned that from Jerry in this season that his dad didn't actually get murdered. That was the common misconception. Everybody said that Clay murdered him. He's like, I think your dad had no way out and thought that was the best thing for him. He's like, you think my dad killed himself? So I like how that comes full circle and he has that realization, that calmness. I love how he realizes like, I'm the bad guy. He tells the DA, he's like, I'm the bad guy. And he's like, my kids aren't going to grow up to be me. He's like, I know who I am. I am a criminal. I kill people.
And of course, the guy driving the semi was Michael Chiklis.
Yes, from the Shield, baby. Kurt Sutter universe. Yep. Actually, everybody in Sons of Anarchy came from the Shield. Realistically, Walton Goggins. Yep. Perfect example. I want to go back and rewatch the Shield, but now that I'm done with Sons of Anarchy, my next goal is to go through Mayans because I have not watched them, and John said that they're really fucking good. So,
the best thing I've watched in a long time has been Severance.
It's who did we have on last? We had Dalton Pruitt and Drew Flores on last week, and Dalton Pruitt, that was like one of his recommendations. He's like, I love this fucking show. He's like, I can't explain it good enough.
Yeah, there's no way to explain it. It's a perfect show.
I'm gonna give it a shot. You're the second person in a week that's told me that.
I promise you, by the time you get to the end of season 2, which there was 3 years between season 1 and 2 because the writer's strikes, the pandemic, and they said it won't be as long for season 3. But Jesus Christ, dude.
That's how it felt with Yellowstone.
Wild. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a shot now. Like I said, you're the second person within a week that's told me that. So now I'm gonna jump on it. I'll give the first episode go and see where it takes me. It's funny. I started pulling out shit the other day because I'm gonna have the summer off. I've made enough money this past year to where I can afford to take the summer off, and my bills are paid up for the next 3 months. My rent's paid. And my plan was I bought a bike. I got to fix it up. It's rusted as shit, but I'm going to start biking a little bit more on top of walking and jogging. And I pulled out my entire box set season of Fringe, and I'm going to rewatch Fringe this summer. That's my goal. That's my goal.
I own it physically and digitally.
Yeah, I remember when you said you had it on 4K. I'm like, they don't even have it on 4K.
Yeah.
But all right, man. Well, have a great day. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would say, have a great day. I'm going to try to get Mom to eat some breakfast. The girls are getting ready to leave.
Give Mom a kiss and tell her I send my love.
Will do.
I'll get a hold of you at some point, and we'll plan for another one of these next month when we got time.
All right, man. Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Have a good day, everybody who's watching. 29 people still. Wow. That's wild.
Wow, I'm surprised.
I'm not. Later. We're awesome. Later.